Coming up next, this 80s frontman got kicked out of a club for dancing in a mosh pit. From that experience, he went home and wrote one of the catchiest songs of the decade. It's become a global catchphrase, and it's indelibly tied to the 80s. You're going to see what I'm talking about next. This singer-songwriter will tell us the story coming up of writing what he felt at the time was a protest song about his experience that became a hit by accident, really. It's coming up next on Professor of Rock, brought to you by Zenni Eyewear. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you love music, you're going to want to subscribe below. Be a part of our community where you can comment and be a part of this daily nostalgia trip that we take. Now, for more content like this and behind-the-scenes footage, you can check us out on Patreon. Help our mission of curating more interviews, more videos at the link below. We'd appreciate it. Now, I want to invite you to travel back in time with me right now. Let's go ahead and set the circuits for the first week of October 1983. Of course, the world is a much different place. Home computer games that are being played at that moment, Zork, Lode Runner, and Frogger. If you watch TV this week, you're going to see the A-Team, Fall Guy, Love Boat, and Remington Steele. And then if you venture down to the theater, the local theater, you can catch a matinee of Return of the Jedi, Flashdance. Man, those were the times. Perhaps you'd like to see War Games or Mr. Mom or Eddie and the Cruisers. Great soundtrack. In that week of October, Michael Jackson's Thriller hit 14 million in sales as an album, surpassing Simon & Garfunkel's Greatest Hits to become the biggest selling album in Columbia Records history, which of course is now Sony. And it would later, Thriller, become the biggest selling album of all time globally. In sports, the MLB playoffs were about to begin, which would result in Cal Ripken's Orioles taking Mike Schmidt's Phillies in 7 games. There were only 4 teams in the playoffs that year instead of 20 like this year. It's crazy. And at that moment, everybody was learning a brand new dance, spelled S-A-F-E-T-Y, the safety dance. Men Without Hats spent its 3rd week at its peak position at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it was bested by Billy Joel's Tell Her About It, number 2, and Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler at number 1. The safety dance actually hit number 1 on the Cashbox chart. It also hit number 1 on the dance charts here in the US. As far as the rest of the world, it hit number 11 in their native Canada. It went to the top 10 in Austria, Belgium, and the UK, as well as the top 5 in Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, and Germany, as well as number 1 in South Africa. To say that this was a global hit would be an understatement. I remember at 7 years of age, I listened intently for 3 weeks, trying to will it to number 1, that Casey Kasem would announce it as the number 1 song on the American Top 40, but of course it didn't happen. It was stuck at number 3. Now, I was pretty excited when Billy Joel hit number 1. I remember watching the video for the safety dance on Friday night videos. We didn't have MTV at that moment. The safety dance was one dance that I could do. It was pretty uncoordinated. Imagine that. So I never could nail down the moonwalk or the Roger Rabbit later on, but the safety dance is one I could do pretty well. I always loved this song, the way that Ivan Doroschuk sings it. So determined and matter of fact. 'Cause your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, well, they're no friends of mine. Seriously, such a great vocal. It was pretty much the first protest song for me at 7. I was like, yeah, I can dance if I want to, and you're not going to stop me. Ivan was a friend of all of ours, for sure, because this song made us dance, and it was kind of a precursor to this whole protest through dance movement, which, of course, Footloose followed the next year. And it's generational. Now my kids listen to it. They do their own version of the safety dance. It's definitely a touchstone for us 80s kids, from its eternal play on MTV and with Weird Al parodying it as the Brady Bunch in '84. You can watch 60 Minutes, even Captain Kangaroo, but there's only one. And it's still a through line in current pop culture that's used a lot to establish the 80s. Now, I was fortunate to talk with Men Without Hats frontman Ivan Doroschuk, and he, of course, wrote it. And he has the story behind this undeniable pop smash. Here's Ivan with the story of the safety dance. We can dance if we want to. We can leave your friends behind. I want to jump in and ask you about Safety Dance, because that was number 3 hit in America, but it was actually #1 on the Cashbox charts, #1 on the dance charts, and it was top 10 worldwide in every market. There have always been like misconceptions about the meaning. I know that I've heard people say that, oh, they read into the lyrics and they say, oh, it's about safe sex or it's about anti-nuclear war. Tell me about that, what it was about and where it came from.
The song was written as a direct reaction to me getting kicked out of clubs for slam dancing, basically.
For pogoing, right?
For pogoing, which was the precursor of slam dance, the mosh pit, And so it was, the dying days of disco. The DJs would occasionally slip in Blondie's Heart of Glass or, Devo or Rock Lobster, B-52s. And we would get up and just start pogoing, and the bouncers would interpret that as fighting or causing a disturbance, and we'd get turfed. And so I literally went home and wrote that song about that. And you can act real rude and totally removed, and I can act like an imbecile. It's about not succumbing to peer pressure, basically, not having to fall in line.
Anti-establishment.
Not doing your own thing, following your own beat, following your own drummer. And that's what I think has been the magic of the song. It's crossed not only generations, but also styles. There's, jocks listen to it, nerds listen to it, cool people listen to it. Besides the S movement, there is no safety dance. It's up to you, it's like,
when it was an easy dance to learn as a kid, the moonwalk is a little harder to learn. Disco was you were dancing with another person. With new wave, you could just, whether it was pogoing or kind of just sitting there doing your thing, you could just be listening to the music and feeling the music. And I think that some people were uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
That we're more of the conformists. They were like, you can't do that.
That's it. We were different. Like we'd walk down the street and we were visibly different from what was going on. And that was a challenge too. It was kind of like the birth of the long hair in the 60s, when people started wearing long hair and getting called girls and that type of thing. It was kind of the same thing with the punk movement, walking around with your torn jeans and your safety pins.
Back then you were taking a bit of a chance with that kind of stuff.
Well, it was.
All of a sudden the car would drive by and they'd yell some bad things to you, and you might have to end up fighting for what you believed in.
No, it was kind of, because it was such a visible movement, like it wasn't just the music, it was the clothes, it was the hairstyles, the shoes, it was everything. You were taking a stand. You were visibly, you would go and buy the uniform that was going to identify you as the opposition. It was a challenge, and it wasn't it wasn't peace and love anymore. It was much more of an anarchist kind of bent to things, it was more of a street fight than the 60s, so.
Well, and I loved your baritone voice and I love when you do your own harmony on it and it comes in. We can dance, we're doing it from pole to pole. The video, MTV, one of the iconic videos of all time, you kind of had that old folk thing with the mummers dance, and the Morris dancers, as they call them, Punch and Judy, and from the Dwarf, and actually, the Dwarf is wearing the shirt, which is cool. Tell me about making the video. Tim Pope was the director. He did a lot of ones for The Cure, I know, and very iconic.
What happened with the funny thing that happened is we both had the same idea for the video, which was kind of a Pied Piper. That was my idea. I wanted to make a Pied Piper kind of thing. It was pre-internet days. And so we actually wrote letters to each other. We wrote each other a letter describing the vision that we had for the video. The letters crossed each other. Like we both received our letters at the same time and realized that we had the same idea for the video. So that when we met over in England, it was just,
it came together
automatically. We was like, telepathy almost. And it felt really, really familiar to me. And so much so that when I saw the video, I felt like I'd seen it before. It was really strange.
What was in your head?
We can go if we want to. Night is young and so am I.
Such a distinct video, very fantasy, some fantasy elements too. And
that's why I think it's long lasting too, because it's a timeless video. It's like like doing a Western, like you can't really date it, like kids watch it now and they can't tell it was made in the 80s,
Exactly.
It could have been made in the 40s or
I know.
Whatever,
And my kids, like you were talking about how safety dance has really belongs to everybody now. They found it through the Crazy Frog video.
Exactly where my son found it. Yeah, he didn't. I mean, he had seen it. He knew kind of what I did. Not, but it's not until his friends at school started saying, "Hey, your dad's on Crazy Frog." That was exactly the video that awakened him to who I was, really.
'Cause your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, well, no friends of mine. So
And Glee.
Glee turned us on to a whole new generation of fans, which was
Such
awesome.
a cool video too.
Yeah,
The gentleman that was in the wheelchair and he's
awesome.
dreaming of being able to dance, and it really took it to that level
Yeah.
that I think that you were trying to write from.
I couldn't have asked for it more.
and we can dance.
Is one of the best moments in Glee, and then The Simpsons and Beavis and Butthead,
That's
and
my
like every
favorite.
cartoon.
Beavis is my favorite.
Yeah.
That's by far my favorite.
Is that Michael Jackson?
It's what's allowed me to come back and do this now. I was a stay-at-home dad for the last 10 years until 5-6 years ago, and I got a call from an agent who said, "Would you be interested in putting the band back together and going on the road, opening up for Human League and the B-52s across America?" Thought about it for about a nanosecond.
Yeah.
And said, pack my bags. Here I am.
Hey, thanks for watching. Leave us a comment about Ivan and this pop culture touchstone. What a great song. What are your memories of this song? And what are your memories of the year 1983? Please share, and we'd love to hear them. You can get Men Without Hats music and their merch by clicking on our Amazon links below. If you like our content, we invite you to be part of our community. Subscribe below, hit the bell so you never miss out on content. You can also become a patron to unlock even more content and help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.